30 feet underground. No light, no air, just the sound of your own breathing and the constant fear that the tunnel could collapse on top of you at any second. Hundreds of men spent almost a year digging 3 tunnels beneath a Nazi prison camp that was supposed to be impossible to escape. What happened next became one of the boldest, most tragic, and most unforgettable escape stories in human history. It was 1944, in the middle of the Second World War. Deep in the forests of Nazi Germany, the German Air Force ran a prisoner of war camp called Stalag Luft III. Inside its wooden fences were hundreds of captured Allied airmen, pilots, navigators, and officers who had been shot down over enemy territory. The Germans built this camp specifically to hold the most determined escape artists among the Allied forces, and they were confident it could never be broken. The soil was sandy and unstable. Watchtowers surrounded every corner, and guards patrolled day and night. On paper, escape was simply not possible. But the prisoners inside Stalag Luft III had other plans. These were men who had survived combat in the skies over Europe, and captivity hadn't broken their spirit. Under the leadership of a British officer named Roger Bushell, a sharp, relentless man, the prisoners nicknamed Big X. A secret escape committee began plotting something far bigger than any escape attempt the camp had ever seen. Bushell didn't want just a few men to slip away quietly. He wanted to get out 200 prisoners at once and throw the entire German war machine into chaos, trying to hunt them all down. The plan was as bold as it was dangerous. Instead of digging 1 tunnel, which could easily be discovered, the prisoners decided to dig 3 at the same time. That way, even if the Germans found one, the others could continue in secret. They gave each tunnel a code name, so no one could accidentally give away the plan by saying the wrong thing out loud. They called them Tom, Dick, and Harry. Each tunnel started nearly 30 feet below the surface, deep enough to avoid the sound detection microphones the Germans had buried around the camp, and stretched for hundreds of feet toward the tree line beyond the fences. Digging a tunnel that deep, that long, entirely by hand, without being caught, was almost unimaginable. Prisoners worked in total darkness, using whatever tools they could quietly steal or build. Bed frames turned into shovels, tin cans turned into digging scoops. The sandy soil constantly threatened to collapse around them, so they built wooden support frames using bedboards ripped from their own bunks, risking suspicion every time a guard noticed a bed missing a plank. Deep underground, in tunnels barely wide enough to crawl through, men dug for hours in air so thin it left them gasping. Every part of the escape required brilliant, dangerous improvisation. Fresh air couldn't reach that deep underground, so the prisoners built a hidden ventilation system out of old powdered milk cans, chained together and buried along the tunnel to pump air down from the surface. The sandy soil they dug out was a different color than the ground above, which meant simply dumping it outside would instantly give away the tunnel's location. So prisoners sewed secret pouches into their trouser legs, filled them with sand, and while walking casually around the camp yard, they would quietly release the sand through their pant legs, scattering it across the ground until it blended in and disappeared. Every hidden pouch, every stolen tool, every scrap of wood was one more risk that could end in a bullet if discovered. This wasn't just a tunnel digging operation. It became an entire underground factory of deception. Forgers created fake identity papers and travel documents good enough to fool German officials. Tailors quietly transformed old uniforms into civilian-looking suits and coats. Mapmakers memorized train routes and border crossings, sketching escape maps from memory. Every single prisoner in the camp played some role, as diggers, lookouts, forgers, tailors, or distraction makers, creating one of the most organized and disciplined secret operations of the entire war, hidden in plain sight from the enemy guarding them every single day. The operation faced disaster more than once. At one point, the tunnel named Tom was discovered by German guards and destroyed completely. Months of brutal, dangerous work gone in an instant. Rather than give up, the prisoners simply shifted all their focus to Harry, working even harder in secret to make up for the loss. There were countless close calls, guards nearly stumbling onto hidden trapdoors, unexpected inspections, moments where a single mistake could have ended the entire plan and gotten men killed. But the prisoners kept going. driven by something stronger than fear. The belief that they owed it to themselves and to the men who had already died in this war, to fight for freedom in whatever way they could. Finally, after months of digging, planning, and near disaster, the night arrived. On the night of March 24th, 1944, the tunnel named Harry was ready. One by one, in near total silence, prisoners began crawling through the narrow underground passage toward the forest beyond the camp fence. It was cold, cramped, and terrifying. Every man knew that if they were caught in that tunnel or shot the moment they surfaced, there would be no second chance. But one after another, they kept going, driven forward by nearly a year of sacrifice and the desperate hope of reaching freedom on the other side. Then came a devastating discovery. When the tunnel's builders had calculated its length, they had aimed to reach well past the tree line, safely hidden from the camp's watchtowers. But when the first prisoners emerged from the exit, they realized in horror that the tunnel had come up short, several feet short of the forest, out in the open, dangerously close to a guard tower. Every single escape after that had to be carefully timed between the sweeping beam of the guard's searchlight, slowing the entire operation down to a crawl, literally and figuratively, and cutting short how many men could get out before daylight. Despite the setback, the prisoners pressed forward. One by one, 76 men crawled through that narrow tunnel and disappeared into the German countryside in the darkness before dawn. It was, up to that point, the largest single mass escape of Allied prisoners in the entire war. For a few precious hours, 76 men who had spent years locked behind barbed wire tasted freedom again, scattering across Germany by foot, train, and forged papers, each one hoping to somehow make it hundreds of miles to safety in neutral territory. But their freedom didn't last. When the escape was discovered the following morning, it triggered one of the largest manhunts in German history. Adolf Hitler himself was informed, and he was furious, not just at the scale of the escape, but at the embarrassment it caused the Nazi regime. Tens of thousands of German police, soldiers, and Gestapo agents were mobilized across the country to hunt down every single escapee. One by one, most of the 76 men were caught, at train stations, on roadsides, in towns far from the camp, their forged papers and disguises eventually failing under the intense pressure of the search. In the end, 73 of the 76 men were recaptured. What happened next was one of the darkest moments of the entire story. Enraged by the escape, Hitler personally ordered that a large number of the recaptured officers be executed, a direct violation of the Geneva Convention, which strictly protected prisoners of war from being killed for attempting to escape. In the weeks that followed, 50 of the recaptured men were shot by the Gestapo, their deaths quietly reported to the camp as having occurred while attempting to escape, or resisting arrest. A cover story almost no one believed. It was a brutal, unlawful act that shocked even some within the German military, and one that would later be investigated as a war crime. Out of 76 men who crawled through that tunnel, only 3 managed to make it all the way to safety, reaching neutral countries and eventually returning home. It was a devastating cost for so much sacrifice, so much daring, so much brilliant and desperate ingenuity. And yet, the story of the Great Escape didn't end in tragedy alone. It became a symbol, proof that even behind barbed wire, deep underground, in complete darkness, human beings could still find the courage to fight for freedom, no matter the odds stacked against them. This is the story of the greatest escape in human history. Not a story with a perfectly happy ending, but a story of extraordinary courage under impossible conditions. 76 men risked everything for a chance at freedom. Only 3 made it home. But their tunnel, their sacrifice, and their refusal to simply accept captivity became a legend that has outlived every one of them. A reminder that even in humanity's darkest hours, the will to be free never truly dies. If you enjoyed this story, hit like and subscribe. We bring you stories like this every week.